Vice President? No. President? Yes, President. He's President still. Mr. Mike Collins. Mike?
Bob, how do you get this arrow to work?
Very carefully.
Very carefully, yeah. Forward, reverse, where's it? Where's it?
Stop.
All right, I'll have to move to the back of the room here then. All right, we're going to talk about second number 25. And as John said, this is the engine that is out. I guess it's out working today, from what I hear from Adam. So we'll see what happens here. There we go. All right, the first number 25 was this little 440 Rhode Island engine that was actually on the Union Pacific at one time. And they bought it in March 18th of 1901 for $4,000. About a 69-inch drivers on that thing and a rigid pilot truck. And that's what did it in on the V&T. It would not, it would go off the rails more than it would stay on the rails, go around the curves. So they decided to get rid of it. Went over to Toll Brothers over in the Emerald Gap area of Placer County. And then was sold to a couple other railroads, and finally, this is the last picture I've seen of it, sitting on a scrap line someplace. If you're interested in Toll Brothers and Placer County, there's a couple of nice books out there on that. I think the one on the right just came out here recently, and the one on the left is put out, I think, over in Placer County. So you can trace the history of Toll Brothers and that engine. There's not a lot of information of the engine in there, but it's a nice read on the lumber company up in that area. So anyway, getting on to the second, number 25. Okay, I think I went too far. No, I did not go too far. Anyway, Yarrington, he requests from Baldwin, he sent a letter to Baldwin saying, hey, we're looking for a second-hand locomotive. And Baldwin responds to them, well, I don't have any second-hand locomotives, but I can build you a nice 50-ton 10-wheeler for about $8,500. And he offers two types of locomotives to the V&T. One is a circular 10 and the other is circular 14. So Baldwin, he gets the letter, Yarrington gets the letter back. Okay, I did go too far. And this is the letter that he got back, and Yarrington goes through it, and he marks it like, okay, I see the 17 by 24 size cylinders, I want that. And there should have been another letter up there. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so this is the letter that Baldwin sends him back. And you see up on the mark up there, the little X that says, yes, this is what I want. So he's got a circular 10 down here and a circular 14. So, and then he goes to 17 by 24 cylinders. So this is what he's figuring he wants to do. And he decides that instead of getting the circular 10 engine, which is a firebox that would be in between the rear drivers, he wants a firebox that's above the rear drivers. So he marks the items he likes. This is one of the this is circular 10. This engine here has the firebox in between the rear drivers, so you have a wider space between the rear drivers than the front drivers. And it gives the various dimensions of a 10-wheeler of this type. So he says, okay, we quote a 10-wheeler weighing 50 tons, including Westinghouse brakes, $8,550, okay, delivered in Philadelphia. So then you gotta pay freight on them, of course. Yarrington writes back, he says, okay, I want a first-class 10-wheeler, 45-ton engine, drivers 56 to 60 inches, outside rigid wheelbase, not to exceed 12 feet in length. That would be over the drivers. And a pony truck, okay? Please wire price and earliest possible delivery. So we go back and forth, okay, your wire yesterday wrote fully on the 21st, that was the letter we just saw. We'll reduce the weight, reduce the price down about $350 if we go to a 45-ton locomotive. So Yarrington writes back, okay, I ordered a 45-ton locomotive, 17 by 24 cylinders, 60-inch drivers, about an 11-foot wheelbase, 10-wheel locomotive. So this is the telegraph going back to Baldwin saying, okay, this is what I want. Baldwin responds and gives him the information he wants and reduces the price. And he sends him this nice diagram here, specifications for a 10-28D locomotive. And if you look at this locomotive here on the photograph, there's a very nice looking 10-wheeler. And it looks pretty much like the number 25 would look. It's a little bit different. It's not a 1028, it's a 1026. And the classifications on these, like a 10 means it's 10 wheels. The 28 is the size of the cylinders. You multiply it by 2 and divide it by a number, and that'll give you a number which comes out, in this case, 17 by 24 comes out to 28. A D represents it's a 6-wheel drive locomotive, so a 10-wheeler. The only problem with this classification is if you have a 262, you would end up with the same thing. So Baldwin would put a quarter /1 and a /4 quarter on the end of it to designate a 10-wheeler like this one versus a 262. So we have here, this is the locomotive that's on that photograph that they sent Baldwin. Negative number 1492, Gulf Ships Island number 25, built in 1901. This is a class 1026D. So, and they built 2 of these locomotives for that railroad. Drawing number 32, cylinder 62-inch, a little bit bigger than what Yarrington ordered, and a 16 by 24 cylinder versus the 17 by 24. So that's where you get the D, the 26 in between the 10 and the D. So it's a different locomotive, different drawing number than what the V&T is going to get. But if you look at that locomotive, it's almost a dead ringer for the 25. So here's your price, is $84.25 for this locomotive. Class 1028-D, number 80. Number 80 means it's the 80th locomotive in that class being built by Baldwin. Negative 1492, which is the one we just saw of the Gulf Island engine, for the Virginia Turkey Railroad, 11/28/1904. Drawing number 19, fuel, soft coal, boiler diameter, 46-inch, plane, wagon top, fire door, 16-inch diameter, dome diameter, 27.5-inch, dome casting, iron plated, driver, 60-inch. Center of the drivers would be 54-inch, that's the center of the wheel, all right? And then you put the tire on the outside of that. And cylinder 17 by 24, which makes it that 1028-D. So here we have all the 1028-D locomotives built by Baldwin. If you look at, if I can get the arrow point here, there we go. Right there, this is the V&T number number 25 right here in the middle. So it's right in the middle of all the 1028Ds built. Now, before Baldwin went to this classification number, there was another series of classification numbers. And so I didn't include that. So there would be other 10-wheelers that were built to this same description, but they have a different classification system at that time. So from 1873 through March of 1930, there were 159 of these particular locomotives built to this cylinder size and wheel arrangement. But the V&T is the only one that was built to this drawing number 19. There's no other locomotives on this list that were built to that same drawing number. So the V&T's number 25 is basically one of a kind. And here's the drawing of that Baldwin had of that locomotive. And actually, you can get a copy of this up at the University of Nevada at Reno. They do have the blue line drawing of this. Somebody had taken this and drawn this. I'm not sure who did this, but Doug McLeod gave me this drawing. I mean, McLeod. Whoops, gotta go back here. So here's the 25 on the V&T. This is probably one of the only first photograph we have of it. A nice looking little 10-wheeler. Coal burner at the time, cap stack, oil headlight, and air pumps on the side, 9.5 inch Westinghouse air pump on the side, and a coal tender. So there's your 25016, builder's number, construction number on the engine. And I think I lost something back there. I'm not gonna worry about it. On the tender, 8-wheel frame, wooden tender, oak and yellow pine, a U-shaped, 3,000 gallons, bill number 1309. Wood poster trucks, channel bar laid flat. Elliptical springs, journal box 3 3/4, length 7 inch, MCB, Master Car Builders Association box. 33 inch wheels, 4 1/4 inch kind chilled. Toolboxes, top and back, safety chains, single, drawbar, a draw head, 33.5 inch tar couplers, brakes on both trucks, Westinghouse Auto. Weight with fuel, about 60,000 pounds. And it gives the height of the rail to the top of the tank, top of the collar, and top of the fuel funnel. So that gives you some good information on what the tender looked like. And here's the tender. Now this tender is a little bit different than what you see on the 25 today, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But it has a wood frame, has a different set of trucks on it. And he was talking about the bar channel. You can see the bar channel coming out here on the bottom. And he's got different type of covers for the journal boxes here. And springs right down there, elliptical springs on the bottom. About a 5-foot wheelbase truck. One thing that Baldwin didn't do in the specifications, they didn't give me any specifications on the length of the wheelbase on the two trucks, okay, on the tender. Painting style, 291, engine, olive green and aluminum. Tender is 291, olive green and aluminum. Mark on the tank, Virginian Truckee. Number, position, road number, cab, sandbox, front, panel, plate, and back of tank, number 25. No name. Charlie, you got that, opened up that box there, you got that color sample? Okay. Charlie will stick that up in a minute here. So basically, this is what you see. John Davis did not do this. I didn't have time to get the drawing to John Davis. This came out of Narrow Gauge and Short Line Gazette. David Fletcher, he's been doing a series of articles in the Narrow Gauge and Short Line Gazette on different locomotives, and this particular locomotive is off the eastboard top. Note here, the drivers on, okay, back up one here. The drivers on here, the firebox would be between the two rear drivers. This is a 1026-D, so the cylinder is a little bit smaller. Of course, this is a narrow gauge locomotive, but this gives you the idea of the color. The olive green here, aluminum lettering, and the boiler here. I think the boiler would be a little bit more shiny. Is that right, Wilkie?
Yes.
Yeah, Jim and I talked about this the other day. And Charlie, you want to hold up that black paint?
Right here, it's definitely black.
Yeah, okay. You can look at this, come up and look at this piece later. Jim and the window had gone out, and we found some green, they found some green. Oh, okay, somebody else over here. Anyway, We stuck this board up, Jim, they went over and had some dark olive green paint made. We stuck it up to the cab of the 25 the other day, and you can't tell the difference between the black and the olive green, basically. But this would be what the locomotive would have looked like when it first came out on the V&T in the color schemes and the lettering. So here's another picture of it a little bit later. You notice how shiny the boiler jacket is? It's more like an American iron instead of, you know, in the old days they used Russian iron, and they went to American iron here in the United States after a while. But this is a little bit later. Here on the back of the tender, you can see where they've raised the tender box up a little bit, and you can see the coal sitting in there. All right, so it got raised up a little bit, and still, you know, cap sack on it and all that. This is up at over at Franktown. Nice shot at the crew. You see how nice and shiny the boiler jacket is versus the smoke box. So you would get more of a shine on your boiler jacket. All right, in about 1905, they sent a letter to the SP putting splitters on our coal burners. Now, yesterday when Bob Church was up here giving his talk, you saw a lot of the SP engines that had the splitters on top of the coal smokestack. They took off the cap stack and put on this splitter, so it was to split out the smoke. This is a Palmer photograph that Bob was talking about Palmer's photographs yesterday. Same time.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Another shot of another Palmer shot coming into Reno with the splitter. And this is one of the SP baggage cars, or mail cars, I'm sorry, mail cars that they tried for a while in lieu of using the V&T cars, but that didn't work out, so the V&T went back to their own cars. Nice front view of it with that splitter on top, and the fireman sticking his head out there. Reno, cap stack, or the splitter on top, still has the oil headlight. And the Crown Point trestle, this has been put in postcards and been around a lot. You'll see it, I think there's a couple of postcards here of it on sale that Karen has out here. And still has a splitter on it. So by 1907, 9/9 of 1907, they converted it into an oil burner today. Now, we could not find a picture of it with only the one oil burner tank here. This one shows the two oil tanks, and we'll get that in a minute. So now you can see it's been re-lettered and repainted probably by this time. And the cap stack is back on it. Still has your oil headlight. Okay, labor and supplies and rebuilding, engine number 18 and 25 of March 28, 1908. Auxiliary oil tank for engine number 25. The cost of that from March 29th, or February 29th to March 20th was $314. And at the same time they were doing the 25, they were also rebuilding the 18 and making it into an oil burner. So here's that auxiliary tank that they added on the end of it. You have the cap stacked back on it, of course, by this time. Another nice shot of it, this is 1916, the big snowstorm that they had here in Carson that shut down the railroad for 2 or 3 days. We talked about this a little bit last year in one of the workshops. All right, by the end of 1917, they started adding electric headlights to all their locomotives. So we now have the generator up here, and you see we now have an electric headlight on the front. One of the stock trains, they did an awful lot of stock movement between Carson and Minden area over those years. They would take 2 locomotives. They'd haul 16 to 32 cars, over to, can't think of the name of it now anyway. Huh? No, steamboat, I'm sorry, yeah, steamboat. They would break the train apart, steamboat, take the rest of the cars over to Minden area and then come back and get the rest of the train. But they were using the 25 and the 26 for that, basically. There's another picture of one of the stock trains. This is down by Washoe. You can see the Washoe building the building right here in the background. One of the loading platforms that they had there, and a nice long string of stock cars. Flanger 51 somewhere near Gold Hill, and Beebe has this in one of his books, and he said it was part of the 1916 snowstorm. But I think it's after that, because looking at the photograph closely, you can still see the generator up there and the electric headlight. So it could be anywhere between after 1917 up to 1940. But they used to store the mechanical flanger up at Gold Hill or up at Virginia City. Somebody say something? Oh, excuse you. You can see the guy here standing there, the flanger operator, and he would have to raise the blades every time they would come to a switch. Otherwise, they would run through the switch and derail the whole thing. But that's a nice shot of one of the duties of the 25, and it had several duties over its lifetime. Nice side view picture of the 25 later on. And you can see the auxiliary tank here. You can see the original oil tank, electric headlight, generator up here. And there's a picture of the tender. It's got a little bit different latches on the journal boxes here. Instead of pulling them out like we normally do, they had a spring-loaded one here, and you just lift it up, turn it over like that, and then you can get into the journal box. Check the waste and check the oil level of that. So it's a little bit different truck than what you see on the wood frame, wooden frame on the tender here. And by this time they've changed the handrails on it. They got the handrails all the way down. So there was some modifications that were ICC required over the time. And talking about that tender box, I found this one drawing down at California State Library. This is that cover for the journal box right here. You can see the spring-loaded area here. See how it's lifted up here and it turns over to the right. Very good drawing. This comes off of an SP 10-wheeler about 1901, and up in here it says it went over to the NWP. So it's one of the engines that Charlie has over in the NWP area over there. But you can see how the spring here levels up and goes around, and then the nut and bolt that goes through it, and the little cap on the top of the spring box. So this is basically what was on the 25. And snow plows, it did get snow plows. This one here was about 1917. This probably picture's a little bit later, but it does give you in 1917 they put new tires on it, and equipped with a pilot plow prepared for storms. Another shot of it, taken about 1935. Another shot, Carson City Freight House, Dave Joslin photograph, 1935. And this is earlier, 1935, and I'll tell you about that in a couple of minutes here. Coming out of Carson City, heading up with the loco to Virginia City. So it became one of the regular locomotives that went up to Virginia City with one of the combines on the end, and the little baggage car number 21 on the end there. Another nice shot of it coming out of the tunnel at Virginia City, a little bit before 1935. All right, this is the big wreck of October 2nd, 1935. Wreck. Yesterday we had another bad wreck about a mile east of Mount House. An axle broke on the tender of locomotive number 2025, which in turn broke an axle on the rear truck, turning both trucks completely over under the tank. something that just can't be explained. The tank was thrown against the cab of the loco and just balanced to turn over. The tank was braced to prevent turning over, and track was cleared this morning. The train had 2 cars of lumber and 2 coaches. On the 6th of October, enclosed and handling you snaps of our wreck near Manhouse, which will appreciate how really fortunate we were. Note how frame of tender is broken and that both trucks are upside down. The tender must have jumped some up in the air in that accomplishment. Have quoted from SP Company for all steel frame and trucks for $200 and believe we will take it up. So here's the wreck. Just below Mound House, you can see, well, go back. You can see how the tender frame has been broke. There's your trucks, upside down and backwards. As I remember recall, this was a wooden frame tender that was built originally. Here's the back view of it that they sent, the photos they sent down. Note one thing here, there's no backup headlight on this. By this time, the 26 and 27 had backup headlights required, but they never put them on the 25. So they were able to buy the tender frame from the SP, all steel tender frame, and a pair of tender trucks from the SP, and for $200. Okay, Jim Wilkie, what other V&T locomotives have Southern Pacific tender frames? Huh? None? How about Central Pacific? One? How about 2? What's under the 18? Huh? Okay. If you go over to the museum and you look at the tender frame under the 25, and you go look at the tender frame under the 18, they're both basically the same type of construction. A little bit different, but they both have the steel or iron underframe under. The other locomotive would be number 17. And this picture I picked up off of eBay. You've probably seen it out on eBay quite a bit. A nice shot of the 2025 with the new tender frame and truck, the 21 and what is that, 15 I guess? And one of the boxcars heading out of Carson City up towards Virginia City. There's one of those stock trains I was talking about. This would have been when they were running mixed trains. You got the 25 on the front, I think 26 probably, a string of cattle cars, and you see on the rear there, you can see the passenger cars back here. You got the 13, the 14, and one of the, probably the 18 in the back here on the train. This would be after 24, when they converted the 18 into a smoking section. Nice shot up in Virginia City, 1937, 1938. One of the last, this is about one of the last times the train ran out of Virginia City, and the comment made yesterday, I think by Dr. Church, the last train out of Virginia City was a 25.
Actually, it was the 26 according to the train register.
Okay. This picture here, there were several fan trips up to Virginia, up to Carson City in that area at this time. This is one of the postcard size that I picked up. I have a bunch of pictures of this, and one of the shows I did here when we were doing the Carson City buildings, I was trying to find a good photograph of the boiler house in the background, and this is about the best photograph that shows the doors and the windows here of the boiler shop in the back. But it's a nice shot, and a nice shot of the 25 also. According to Ted Worm, this was 1940, taken down in Minden. And you see here, we have the plow off of the 18, probably. And also, by this time, they got the rear headlight on it. So I'm thinking probably when they rebuilt the engine in the end of 1935, when they redid the tender, they probably put the rear headlight on it, but I have not found a date for that yet. Nice shot of it in 1941 when they were scrapping the Virginia City line. You can get a better view of the rear headlight on it now. 1945, 1947, they put the diamond stack on it. Letter 25 on the cab, right here. And the crew. September 27th, they did the Lion trip. They painted up the cars, took the number 8, made the Julie Bullet out of it, and the 25 was in the shop for us redecoration, and came out with red wheels, silver drivers, and red flared stack. This came out of Dick Dayton had written this up in the Sagebrush Headlight back in August of 1988. So here's the Julie Bullet that was run as the club coach at that time. Shortly after this, they took the name off and they used the coach up until the time they sold it. Here we see the 25 now, it's called the Carson, and it has the little decorations on it with the mule and the miner. I'm pretty sure this is a Nevada Day mission trip. Is that correct, Stephen?
I think so.
Yeah, probably the one of October 31, 1946. Curtis, here's your Derrick house, Curtis, that we need for our drawings of Carson City. Very few photographs of this building.
You had a nice shot of one of the hose houses there by freight people earlier.
Yeah, I think Stephen had one that last issues had a good front view of it. All right, 1946, doubleheader for B.B. and Clegg, according to B.B. and Clegg's write-up. Several different photographs of this train has appeared in their books, including the new book, their enduring photographic legacy. Wendell says that this site is where the museum sits today. But in this photograph here, you see the 25 and the 26, a string of tank cars, and then bringing up the rear is the passenger train, probably heading down towards Minden. Other photographs that you'll find in BB's book is the same train, but without all the tank cars, all right? So if you go through BB's various books, you will find different views of this same train. But a beautiful picture that BB, probably BB took this one? David?
Probably.
Yeah,
Chuck like printed it.
yeah. But beautiful shot of the two engines. And in Reno, Coach 19 and Coach 18 and caboose number 8 on another trip heading down towards Minden, supposedly for BB and Clegg. Whoop, sorry about that. Back. Okay, so here it is on its way down to Minden. Probably one of the last runs on the V&T. Sold to RKO Radio Pictures in April of 1947 for $5,000. And what they did with that was to buy the Nevada Copper Belt second number 5. So here it is, left Carson City on April 11, 1947. At Los Angeles with main rod down. Frank Peterson photo. This is off of a postcard I have, and this is what was on the left of it. Where did it end up, Stephen? Went down to RKO Studios and what's the name of the other town?
Down by Hollywood someplace.
Yeah. Anyway, it ended up in the Hollywood area. A nice photograph of it. Several movies played in over the years. Was used in a lot of, the shots that were used in a lot of TV serials too. In 1955, UP took it in, reconditioned it, and they ran it on the excursion for the Los Angeles Salt Lake Route 50th anniversary for a Railway Locomotive Historical Society. And then it sat in the yards, in the East LA yards after that. A nice shot that Stephen gave me. First time I saw it was in the UP yards in 1964. I took several shots of the locomotive. You can see how it's deteriorated over time between the other photographs and this photograph here. But that's the first time I saw the locomotive. Here it is back in Carson City, sold to the state of Nevada for $16,000 in 1971. Bob Dockery took this picture of it on November 7th, 1976, being not recommissioned, but being kind of restored in a sense. And here it is, cosmetically refurbished by Morgan Railcar Company, sitting outside of the engine house here in Carson City. A couple of shots that Bob took of the inside, 1974 and 1980. First time fired up, 10:30 in 1980, and there's another, I think 10:29, they steamed it up. These pictures I took up here, one of my little trips up here. You can notice no headlight on it this time, but this is basically the first time it was tailed up after Shortline Enterprises and Group and Chris got it running again. Nice picture of it before 1990. This is my first wife. I forgot that she'd come up with me. She died in the end of 1990, so I have a good date on that photograph. Here we see some pictures of it being steamed up during normal operations. Nice shot of the lettering, number 25, got from California State Railroad Museum. And there's my drawing of it, which is over on the wall. And for you guys that have the models, the Sunset or the Kidder, or not Kidder, I mean key models of the 25, both built about the same time, both very good looking locomotives, a little bit difference between them. But if you notice on the tender is the tender after the 1935. So Mike Lane, you have to change your dates on your model down there to after September of 1936, okay? And a special thanks to Stephen Drew, Doug McLeod, and the Nevada State Railroad Museum for letting me roam around the shops. Photos not marked are from Stephen Drew, or they're from my collection. And that's all I have, guys. Any questions? All right, you can wake up now.
Thank you, Mike. It's